Hey guys, thanks for showing up to church and hearing me speak today. I want to talk to you about how I started my business. Part of it anyway. There's there's quite a bit to talk about. I could talk about how I got the experience, how I came up with the idea, and those are topics for another day. Today I want to talk about how I got started financially, because that's a question that a lot of people have. When I was 23 years old, I moved from Salt Lake City to Portland, Oregon. And I moved with my girlfriend at the time. And so I didn't know anybody except for her up here. And I had no connections, I had no money. The car that I was in was a 30-year-old car with dents all up the side, the windows didn't work. My grandparents just gave it to me because I think they felt bad for me. I didn't have a car for a little while. And they ended up just giving me that car. So I show up in Portland with nothing, and some time passed. I worked at a job for probably 2 years, and then I just knew that I had to start a business. I couldn't wait anymore. It was killing me. There's just this like entrepreneur inside of me that had to come out. So I had to tell my family and friends that, I think I need to start a business. I think that's what I want to do with my life. And I didn't really have any support from anybody. They told me not to do it. They said you need to go to school and you need to keep working a day job, and don't dream too big. You're not a business owner. You've never been a successful person. You've never accomplished anything. Just don't do it. Just live a simple life and do the best you can that way. So anyway, I didn't even have support from my family, and they weren't going to give me any money. I would never ask them, but they wouldn't do it anyway, even if I did. So I didn't have any friends. I couldn't ask them for money. I didn't know anyone in the area, so I couldn't find any investors. I had ruined my credit basically because I lost a really good job that I had, and I had like a whole bunch of credit cards and a truck payment and stuff. And so I couldn't go to the bank and ask them for money. When the economy tanked back in 2008, my credit took a big hit. So I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you haven't read it yet, I'm going to link it down in the description below, and you should definitely check it out. But in the book, the author, he talks about how you need to buy assets instead of liabilities. And I always thought an asset was something big, like a house or like a ton of stock in a company, things like that. I didn't realize that I could buy small assets for a little while. And then I figured that out, that I could just start with where I'm at and start to try and accumulate those assets over time. And so that idea was implanted in my brain. And I got to work. I got started. I wrote a business plan. And anyway, since I didn't have any money, I would just talk to my customers during my walkthroughs, and I would keep my eye out for like vacuum cleaners, and see if they have their own supplies and stuff. And then when I would go to sign the deal with them, I would write in the contract that I would be using all their equipment. And so this way I didn't need to buy vacuums. And commercial vacuums, they're $500 for a decent one. For a basic one, it's like $500. So I didn't have it. I didn't have $500 to my name. So I just worked it into the contract, and I used other people's vacuums for a really long time. Then one day I got an opportunity to buff a floor and wax a floor. But this person was going out of business, and nobody really knew how to do their floors anyway, but they had this floor buffer there. And so they're like, hey, if you want to wax our floors so that it looks good when we sell this building, you can just keep that floor buffer. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I did probably like $1,000 worth of work, and they gave me $600 in the buffer. The buffer was worth about $600, and they just gave it to me. So that's how I got that buffer. And since I got that, I haven't added it up lately, but I think I've made close to $200,000 just on the back of that thing. And that helped me go a long way, but I didn't pay for it up front. Another thing is that wet vac that I have. you know, that vacuum I showed you in one of my other videos, that's about $1,000 vacuum. But I just kept looking on Craigslist, and eventually I saw another janitor who was going out of business, and I called him and I worked out a deal, and I got that vacuum for $400. And I've used that vacuum for probably 3 years now, and it's been great. So I just do little things like that. There was another time when I wanted to get into pressure washing, and I'd had a lot of experience pressure washing, so I knew that I could actually offer that service and do a good job. So eventually I found a customer who wanted to hire me, and it was a big storage unit place, like outdoor self-storage. And I bid on the job. It was $2,500. But I just told the customer that for any job over $1,000, I need to get a 50% deposit. So I think I got something like $1,500 from her. And I did a whole bunch of research, and I found the pressure washer I wanted, and I went out and bought it. And it was $1,000. And then I bought like a really big pole to go with it so I could pressure wash like really tall buildings and stuff. And that was another $250. And then I did the job, and I got some hoses, you know, that was a little, couple $100 in hoses. And then I went out and did the job, and then I got the next half of my payment. So I got the pressure washer for basically free, and then I still had $1,000 in my pocket. It took me a day to do that job, and I still walked away with $1,000. So that's how I got that. And any little thing that I bought for my business, I figured out a way to get it for cheap or have other people pay for it. And I never asked anyone for money. It was always like, I'll do something for you if you pay me half up front, or if you give me this machine, I'll do $1,000 worth of work for a $600 machine. I just made little deals. I have a van. I didn't have a van for a really long time. I would carry around all my stuff. I eventually got this truck, and I would carry all my stuff in the truck. And that's like a whole nother story. But anyway, it would rain a lot, and my equipment would get wet, and it looks unprofessional showing up in an old beat up truck to like a really nice building and stuff. So I needed to get a van, and I saved up a little bit of money, and I went to a car dealership, and I found a cheap van for $4,000, and I got like a really high interest loan on it because I didn't have very good credit still. And I just paid that off as fast as I could. I think I paid it off in probably 3 or 4 months. And I remember going to the dealership with like $3,000 in cash and just plunking it down on the counter and taking the title home. And that felt really good. But that's how I got that. I just bought a cheap van. You know, some people want to go out and spend 20 grand on a brand new van. And that's a problem because your fixed costs will go up, and then you have a high target that you need to hit every month so that you can make those payments. So if you lease, property, and you lease equipment, and you lease your car, then your break-even point is so much higher than if you just start small. So the cool thing about all this equipment is, by the way, I buy it under value, and so if I ever need to sell it, I can get all my money back plus some. So it's kind of like a good investment long-term that way, as long as, this is industrial stuff that can last for 20 years. So as long as I take good care of it, I'll get all my money back. I might even be able to get a little bit off on top of it. So that's like, it holds its value, so that's cool. And then it generates an income every single time that I use it. And that's the kind of stuff you got to keep your eye out for. You don't need millions of dollars to get into real estate. You don't need to invest a ton of money in the stock market if you don't have it right now. Just try and give people value, and they're going to help you out. You're going to go a long way. So that's how I got started financially in my business. If you like this stuff, subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you guys next time.